This is the Dark Illumination Report podcast for Saturday, August 15th, 2020. And on today's episode, I'm going to be answering a question which comes to us from Jessica H., who asked if I have any good book recommendations or any recommendations on the appropriate offerings for Satan and demons.
This is the Dark Illumination Report podcast, the official podcast of Shadow Path Diabolism, your daily dose of Diabolonian philosophy to inspire you on your journey down the crooked shadow path. Here's your host, R.J. Womack, Brother Nero.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining me for yet another episode of the Dark Illumination Report podcast. I'm your friendly neighborhood diabolist, R.J. Womack, Brother Nero. And of course, this is the Dark Illumination Report podcast, the podcast where we promote the religious worship of Satan and demons as a serious faith and way of life. On today's episode, I'm going to be answering a question which comes from Jessica H., who asked me if I have any good books to recommend that would give any information on proper offerings for Satan or demons. And the answer is not really. I mean, the old grimoires, they're very vague and they're very kind of cryptic, and they're not very good for practical advice. I mean, one of them gives you advice on giving a white mouse as an offering to Lucifer. It doesn't really explain why or what the meaning is behind it. The other ones will tell you give a young goat, a virgin goat, as an offering or whatever, but they really don't explain why or what the purpose is. So they're not really a good source of information. What I would suggest that you do is you pick whatever entity you're going to work with. You meditate on that entity using their sigil or symbol or whatever it is that you connect to, and you do your research while doing this meditation regularly, and ask the Spirit to guide you or direct you to an appropriate offering. And what you'll find is that you'll either come across the right offering information as you study, or they will give you telepathic transmissions, certain offerings that are appropriate, certain words that will lead you to certain things. You'll be surprised at how many times you'll be wondering about certain information. You'll have foreign phrases or foreign words come to you through your meditations or telepathically, and will lead you to the information that you seek. But ultimately, I would say, follow your own intuition. Don't take the advice of modern Satanists, because I'm convinced that most of them don't practice. Most of them aren't serious people, and you really shouldn't take the advice of most modern occultists. And people think that I say these things because I'm trying to bash people, but I'm just telling you, over the years, and the more I study, the more I begin to realize, and the more I believe that there are very few people that actually take this stuff seriously, that actually have devoted themselves to the gods, and that take it seriously as a religion. And I just don't trust them. I don't trust them myself, and I wouldn't follow their advice myself. And since you're coming to me asking me a question, I'm telling you that I wouldn't trust them. So why would I tell you to trust them? Trust your own intuition, trust your own experience, trust your own communication with the entities first and foremost. And also, just remember these basic things. I mean, offering to the gods, demonic gods or pagan gods, however you want to look at it, is not difficult. Offerings to the pre-Christian gods is very, very simple. Most of them accept incense, alcohol, food, botanicals like flower, herbs, that sort of thing. And they also accept blood and sexual offerings. So the best thing you can do is research the deity, find the consistent offerings, the consistent accounts about that god, what they prefer, what the goddesses prefer, whatever god or goddess, demon or demoness, and follow that advice as a guideline, not as a hard and fast rule, but as a guideline. And then take your prayers and intuitions and whatever you get from your meditations and follow your heart. Because you have to understand that this is supposed to be a living, breathing religion, and you're supposed to be making your own personal connection with the entities. So don't discount yourself, and don't discount the old manuscripts or the old magical text. Just don't give them more weight than they deserve. And even if you take the advice of contemporary Satanists, just remember it's a guideline. It's not a concrete rule. It's not set in stone. It's not a commandment. It's just a guidance. It's just something to use as a tool. Don't let the opinions of other people become more important than your own. And I know there are some people that are misled and some people that are not very wise, and they make terrible decisions when it comes to offering things to the gods. But I've talked to you personally on Skype, and so I believe that you're a sensible individual. I believe that you have enough common sense to figure out what is right and what is wrong and what is appropriate and what is not. And for everybody else, I give you the same advice. And I can't sit here and recommend books to you if I wouldn't trust them myself. I don't recommend anything to anyone on this podcast that I haven't done or wouldn't do myself. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. I hope that's helped somebody. I hope that helped you, Jessica. If you have any other questions, please feel free to write me, and I'll be glad to try to help you on the podcast here. I always tend to respond to emails by answering questions on the podcast because I feel it would help somebody else. Plus, not only that, but I'm not a big fan of social media, as you guys know, and I'm not a big fan of email or anything else for that matter. I just am not that person. So you're likely going to get an answer on the podcast if I answer you, which in most cases I will answer you. I try to answer everybody's question, and I do realize there are some people's questions that are not appropriate to answer on the podcast. I also want to let everybody know that I'm extremely busy over the last couple of weeks, and I haven't been able to get to all of you the way I wanted to, and I've had plans to speak to some of you and haven't done it. It's just I'm a bit overwhelmed, to be perfectly honest. I've kind of bitten off more than I can chew and kind of filled my plate with more stuff than I can handle, and I'm struggling to keep up with everything. So I apologize for any inconvenience it may cause anybody, and I apologize for not getting back to you as quickly as I probably should have, but I hope you'll understand my situation, and take care, everybody. May Satan be with you. And as always, thank you for being here, and hope to see you on the next episode. Later.
If you would like to learn more about the Shadow Path Diabolism tradition of occultism, go to rjwomack.com. That's rjwomack.com. If you enjoyed this podcast and support our message, tell a friend, leave us a review, and follow us on social media.